Welcome to the conversation. Our honored guest, Dr. Rabbi Bernhard Rosenberg. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Who has profiled my father, Michael Taylor, in Echoes of the Holocaust. His compendium, anthology, and unique compilation of all of the greatest thoughts and essays and poems and reflections of the greatest scholars and authors, poets of the Holocaust genre, educators and survivors and their children through the years, including the late Elie Wiesel. And I know you knew Elie Wiesel quite well. What is your take on his legacy?
Last time I saw him, which was at the Holocaust Museum dinner, he was very frail. I shook his hand. I was standing next to him, but he was extremely frail. He was the voice of Jewry, and can he be replaced? He eventually will be replaced, because everyone is replaced. But he was a very special man.
Dad, what are your reflections of Elie Wiesel, who passed away this week?
Well, he wrote 6 books on the Holocaust, and spoke to the world. And it's too bad that he died so soon, young fellow.
He was 86.
Yeah.
He was young in the Holocaust when he survived. He wrote a lot more than 6 books.
75.
He wrote all his life. I knew Elie Wiesel quite well, having worked with him with the Association of Jewish Lawyers and Judges. One of our co-chairmen, Jerome Hornblas, was a great friend of his, and Elie Wiesel esteemed the justice very much. But Elie Wiesel had another side to him. His first book, of course, was Night, about the Holocaust, which opened the eyes of the world, which should have been opened already, but had tightly closed shut, as did the Jewish communities. And by the way, Peter Bergson, who opened the eyes of the Jewish community at the time with the War Refugee Board, is now getting his due and his recognition as a discreditor of Rabbi Stephen Wise, who was practically an accomplice in the Holocaust, and Roosevelt's, do you agree with that?
I definitely agree.
Roosevelt's silence towards helping the Jews. But Elie Wiesel's second book was Day, and that was a condemnation of the Jewish underground against the British, which my father fought against in order to establish an independent Israel, to get the British occupation troops to leave and stop terrorizing the Jews and arming the Arabs. And Elie Wiesel's book condemned the tactics and strategy of the Jewish underground. Elie Wiesel became a spokesperson for the Palestinian so-called people, and he made a pronouncement when he received the Nobel Prize for Palestinian statehood that he quickly went to Israel to apologize for. And he became beloved around the world because there were many statements he made that were not in the interest of Israel, but in the interest of its enemies. Nevertheless, he was a person of far-reaching consequence and far-reaching poetry. He taught at Boston University most of his life, and at the 92nd Street Y, where I gave many a tour for many a year. And he was very quiet and soft-spoken, but he was certainly one to talk for a long time about many a subject and never shirked the Holocaust. However, he only condemned a Republican President, Ronald Reagan. I never heard him condemn one Democratic president. And we take no position, Republican or Democrat here, but Elie Wiesel belonged with the left of center all his life. And I saw that leaning in the Holocaust Commission and in the museums, and we welcome anybody to come on here. And when a person dies, of course, you say nice things about them, but you have to be honest. And if he's replaced or not is not the issue. The issue is that whoever talks about the Holocaust has to talk about the Holocaust without the need for some other kind of people's retribution and recognition. We still have not gotten a tenth of the reparation compensation from France, from Poland, from elsewhere for the harm done by my father and his family and Rabbi Rosenberg and his family. Your comments?
When you stood next to Elie Wiesel, you knew you were standing next to greatness. But the stand that I take, which a lot of people do not like, is that the concept of teaching Holocaust today has become Holocaust-genocide. And if you go to the museums around the country, which I have, they're becoming more and more genocide than they are Holocaust. So yes, Elie Wiesel was doing a lot of talk about genocide. Personally, I use the word Yom HaShoah, which is the Holocaust. This is not genocide, doesn't talk about genocide. There were 6 million Jews that were murdered for only one reason, because they were Jewish. Everyone else we obviously are sensitive to, and the fact that they were murdered, but they were murdered for different reasons. When you say Shoah, you refer to the 6 million. Now, many people don't want to hear this. They don't like hearing this. And I emphasize that 50 years from now, or less, the concept of the Holocaust will no longer be with us. Genocide will be with us, but Holocaust may not be. So my next step is to take some of the poems from here, add more poems and essays, and I'm creating an addendum for High Holiday, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Passover, Purim, whatever service you're doing. You'll be able to have readings dealing with the Shoah. Why is this important? Because the history of the Shoah will become nothing more than just the history of anything else. Once the survivors are gone, once we are gone, the children of survivors, that is what's going to happen. People don't want to hear it. There are a lot of Holocaust commissions. People give zillions of dollars to museums. But I can tell you all this isn't going to make a difference. It's like you have museums that deal with Indians. You see any Indians running around? And I mean the original Indians that were here in America. Not too many. So that's going to be a huge problem. So this book is Echoes of the Holocaust. It deals with the Holocaust and not genocide.
Dad, you're almost 94. And there aren't too many survivors, as increasing compensation is talked about by the Holocaust Commission. There aren't too many left to receive it. And you went from Holocaust Europe to pre-independent Israel, Palestine, where you encountered the British that Elie Wiesel felt the Jews were being too antagonistic towards. What was your attitude towards the British occupation of Jews in Palestine?
The British maximum soldiers, 500,000 Jewish people after the war, 45, wanted to go to Palestine. And they made a white paper, that only 10,000 can go. I was among the 10,000. I got 4 certificates to go legally to Palestine. And the rest was abominable. And they were rough. They were like Nazis, with this black uniform with a machine gun on us. And we fought. When we came to fight in 1948 for a Jewish state, the British took away first our army before they left, and then gave it to the Arabs, and they got the best position. And in spite of all this, 7 Arabs attacked us.
7 Arab nations.
7 Arab nations attacked us, and thank God we got help, and we won the war at the end. But we got a lot of people as a sacrifice, and that was my goal, to make a Jewish state in Israel, and have Jewish flags flowing all over the world, and I accomplished that, and I was very proud to watch
Well,
we won the war.
you took your 3 surviving sisters after one of your parents died at Auschwitz with you with those certificates, and you still hear from them every week.
Right. But the 4 certificates, when it comes to the boat to Toulon,
It's because you served in the
I
Allied Army.
saw a lot of people who saw the papers alongside the boat, about 50, 60 people, Holocaust survivors. And they didn't have no papers, so I saw
This is after the war.
End of the war, of course. And it was a 45 anyway, in September. And I distributed, and it was 2 guards. And so they saw me going back and forth, and one guard said, "We are Jewish brigades." And in Yiddish he said, "Bring, if you mention the cans." And I
Bring as many as you can.
Yes.
They were hidden. They were undercover.
Uncover. And
Israelis undercover.
And I saved 50 people on the boat, and all of them came all right.
And Rabbi Rosenberg, you profiled this in your episode "Echoes of the Holocaust," written by Victoria Kojan, and goes on for some pages. And I thank you very much for your scholarship. And what are your reflections on my father's account?
Well, he's a hero. He's a hero. He was in the underground. He saved people. He's at 95 now?
94.
94, soon to be 95.
A long way off.
Maybe 94.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking on television. I know you speak in your synagogue,
Yes.
and you speak in schools.
Of course.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And you're a real hero. And you're a real hero.
And in the courthouse.
Yes. And you've written books.
Yes.
Right. And you're in books.
Books and film.
So you're a major hero.
Right.
Yes. Let me just make one more point.
Do anybody understand this history as you encounter it? Or are people basically still ignorant?
People are ignorant. I just want to mention one thing. Eli Wiesel, of course, just passed away. And I just got word a few minutes ago that Dr. Paul Winkler, who ran the New Jersey State Holocaust Commission, and basically was responsible for the mandate to teach Holocaust education in the state of New Jersey, passed away. Another great man, and I'm fortunate to be able to say it on TV. A mentor of mine and a dear friend. What have we learned from the Holocaust? Absolutely nothing. We have learned nothing. Let me get to genocide now. So I don't want anyone thinking
Well, first give some of your many credentials on the Holocaust, because you are a peer among the greats.
My biggest credential is I grew up in a household of Holocaust survivors. And my father, he died fairly young, fought in the Polish underground.
Well,
He was shot. He also saved people. My mother was in the worst labor camp. She was making ammunition for the Nazis. And I was born at a displaced persons camp. So I started studying the Holocaust and writing books on the Holocaust because of that. But let me get to genocide. Genocide's very important. I just don't want to mix the two together. You know, Wiesenthal came out with the number 11 million instead of 6 million, if you remember. Well, he did that because he thought he couldn't sell the 6 million to the non-Jewish world. So he added 5 more. So he figured 11 million was a better PR tactic. Well, maybe he was right, maybe he was wrong. But genocide is very important. We as a people and as a world should have learned from the Holocaust to save these Christians that are being massacred by ISIS. What are we doing?
Only Glenn Beck is doing it.
Only Glenn Beck is doing it. There are Muslims that are being massacred by Muslims. And even the Muslims that should be speaking out in great numbers and turning people in are not. Now, I have no antagonism against Muslims, whether they come into the country or they don't come into the country. God bless them. I don't think we should blame all Muslims for what's happening. But the Muslim community has to turn in some of these people that are in the mosques. They know they're there. They hear them. You got to turn them in. So I don't think we've learned anything from the Holocaust, which I think is horrible. And I don't think we're doing too much about genocides.
There is a constant, unfortunate reverberation in the political campaign today in America with wild accusations that the Republican Party candidate and so on is adapting Nazi-like tactics, Nazi-like language, apes and Nazis. My father watches it all the time. One thing that Elie Wiesel stressed that made his greatness was that there is one Holocaust. It is unique in terms of the scope and the target and the expenditure of the war effort towards the goal of exterminating Jews above everybody else. That was the Holocaust. And now everybody has their own Holocaust, and until it is part of it, and so on. But to come ahead to this year and to apply the Nazi ideology, terminology, propaganda in the political sphere, to me it seems bizarre. But is that a proper thing to do, and does it serve in any way to educate about the Holocaust?
As you know, I have the title Rabbi for Trump. I started this organization when he started running for president, and I've had nothing but migraines and people being unhappy with me for doing that. I defend him with regard to those who say he's anti-Semitic and he's like Hitler. He's not a Hitler. That's number one. The fact that he has Hitler speeches, I have Hitler speeches also. I'm a scholar. I have Mein Kampf in my house in different languages. Does that make me a follower of Hitler? I hope not. Is he a fascist? No, he's not. Is it true that the white supremacists and the Ku Klux Klans and the neo-Nazis follow him? Yes, it is. Why do they follow him? Because obviously there's some things he says that they like. Okay, that does not mean that he wants them. What is Trump supposed to do? He said 100 times already, I don't support them. He said 100 times already, I'm not anti-Semitic. He's got a daughter that's an Orthodox convert. He's got another child that's marrying into the Jewish faith. He's got grandchildren that are Jewish. What is this man supposed to do? Every day they're calling him anti-Semitic and anti-this and anti-that. His approach to Israel, finally, and I think I had something to do with this, is that he's now pro-Israel. And he's against the dividing of Jerusalem. And the last I heard, he was not for a two-state solution. This was not going on when I started Rabbi for Trump. So I think we made a difference.
I was in communication with you at those founding stages, and you were publishing your thoughts that we cannot support a candidate no matter what if it's not 100% for Israel on certain matters. I remember that. You had great integrity in that area, and the candidate then came to the fore, finally, saying that this is not a balancing or a negotiating stance. It's an issue that has come up many times, including at the debates. But I grew up with the swastika on the various books that came out of the Nazi genre, blocked or taped over. And symbols have a very great power over people, like the swastika. And for many, the Jewish star is the most powerful of all symbols. And people believe, who are not Jewish, that the Jewish star is an emblem of power, a symbol of power, like minerals that they believe give you a lot of energy. And the Jewish star is the Jewish star. There's nothing you can do to change the Jewish six-pointed particular star. A sheriff's or marshal badge with 6 points is different, and it says sheriff and marshal on it. And if you take off the sheriff and the marshal and you put in its place most corrupt, you're reducing it to a Jewish star unless you keep the configurations of sheriff or marshal on it. And then if you put it on the bed of a ton of money, $100 bills with your opponent's face on it, and you say these are the enemies, you are subscribing, according to many, to a type of propaganda that the Nazis used to gain power. That is to the person who looks with a critical eye, certainly. And since there has been for a long time this abhorrent type of analogy to the Trump candidacy, that it's Nazi type, why would this type of ad appear for any reason whatsoever? Whether it's a Jewish star or not, whether it was intended to be or not, why would any sound political campaign go there?
I immediately wrote them. at the campaign and said, "Dumb move. Get rid of it." They got rid of it. It was a dumb move. It was a mistake. Now we go on. But, everything that Trump does, they pick on. Hillary can be a liar. Hillary can get by with her husband going on a plane, and I don't know what they discussed. Hillary can mess things up with regard to confidential information. That doesn't seem to be important. But whether it was a Jewish star or not, that seems to be significant. And the press just seems so much more pro the Democrats. At the beginning they were very pro-Trump. They had him on every day, and it was cute. But lately, if you see the TV stations, they're really doing a job on him every single day. He'll handle himself. I just hope he becomes more presidential. Some of the things he's saying, I think, is purely because he thinks he's an actor, from his TV shows. And I wish he'd learned to be more of a statesman.
When he addressed the issue, to his credit he did, the candidate Trump said they should never have dropped the type of ad that was put out. Mm-hmm. He maintained that this was a star like you see in the movie Frozen, which it did not look like, and that this is a six-pointed Marshall star, which says Marshall. This didn't. And he still maintained that this is simply a star, and there are stars that are 6 points besides a Jewish star. And that if he had had a say in it, it wouldn't have been changed to a circle. Mm-hmm. So he never apologized. Yes, the campaign never apologized.
And he's not going to.
And whatever the circumstance, my familiarity with so-called blunders in political campaigns, mm-hmm. or whether it's a campaign or not, is that if this has caused unintended hurt or pain or grief, if this has caused confusion, we apologize for it and the ad is removed. Or if they're sticking to their guns, the ad is not changed. Mm-hmm. You don't change the ad and for a time keep both ads running, the one with the circle and the one with the star, and at the same time say, there's no apology, it is not a Jewish star, and then say, what are you grieving about? You have no right to make an issue.
I've never heard Trump apologize for anything. He's not going to apologize for this. It was a mistake. I said so in the various newspapers. And he's not going to apologize. In the meantime, they're now hunting his son-in-law, Kushner. And so the last couple of days, that's been the discussion. Because Kushner's one of his voices, and has he made mistakes? And then his cousins, who hate him anyway, went after him. And then they brought up the Holocaust. I don't know what the Holocaust has to do with Kushner's statements about Trump, but all of a sudden now the Holocaust becomes part of this.
It always comes in.
It always comes in.
And it always comes. A Jew hater will bring up the Holocaust. You'd think that's the last thing the Jew hater would bring up, but it's the first thing that they bring up.
It always comes in. But I support him. I dropped him when he was not getting back to me, his people were not getting back to me about the Israel situation. So I dropped rabbis for Trump. And it's all over the place. So maybe in 40 different papers, Rabbi Rosenberg dumps Trump. Everywhere, nasty stuff being sent. I said, I didn't dump him. I'm waiting to have a meeting. When I have the meeting, I want to dump him. Guess what? I get a phone call after all this publicity to go down to Trump and to meet with one of his major people. And I brought some of my advisors. We had a meeting, and all of a sudden things changed. So then Rabbi for Trump was relived. But I'm telling everyone right now, and I take pride in it, not out of ego. I just take pride in it. He changed his Israel position largely because I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And if that is important to the memory of my parents because of the Shoah, because of the Holocaust, then I'll take the credit for it.
There was a negotiation.
Absolutely.
Well, Trump loves negotiation.
Yes.
And if he sees, certainly he's known that if there's a right side and that side is adamant, he can meet you halfway. Yeah. Dad, what did you think of the ad with the Jewish star? That whether it was a Jewish star. Did you believe that was a Jewish star?
100%. I saw it. It was a Jewish star with 6 points.
And did you believe, on top of money and accusing corruption and the opponent being Hillary and all the enemies gathered together, did you mean by that kind of ad, did you take it to mean that the implication was that the Jews are in bed with Hillary to corrupt America?
Right.
And if that is the perception, right or wrong, do you believe that the candidate met it adequately?
Trump?
Yes.
As I said in the newspaper, it was a mistake. Now go on. That's my answer.
But he said there was no mistake made.
Trump,
As a president, don't all presidents come to the point where they have to say, like Reagan said with Irangate, that there was a mistake made?
Mm-hmm.
Is he the type who, I know Hillary has never said it has she ever said there's been a mistake?
You know, I see her mouth moving, and I have no idea what's coming out because it's all false.
But she never gave an ad like this. There's never been anything close in her entire history and campaign of anything approaching this, and to the Jewish world, this is the ultimate.
It was a mistake. It was a mistake.
So, as we come to the end, do you look for the conventions that are coming up as peaceful conventions, as conventions that will be seeking to restore harmony, and or are we going back to the 1800s when the political conventions in America were like shoot them out at the OK Corral?
Well, let me tell you, people are now saying that we're now living in the 60s. Now, I was around in the 60s, and this is not the 60s, so that's for starters. And, you know, now we're having riots on the street, and police are being murdered, etc., and Black Lives Matter. Let's change that to Black Lives Matter too. And then I suggested that we have protests by the police to protect the police. So, you know, I'm also the law and order rabbi. If he's the law and order candidate, you know, he got that from Nixon, you know. That's not original. So we'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. Right now, there's a lot of turmoil.
Is the racism allegations that are now taking place, because there are so many uncalled for shootings of black youth and adults and so on throughout the disparate states, going to have an impact on the convention?
I think so.
And will both candidates address it?
Yeah, I'm going to say what Newt Gingrich said. White people do not understand what black people have gone through. So if you do understand it, I grew up with black people, then you have to be sensitive to why they're so upset. We'll see what happens.
But there seems to be an ending cycle. I'm sorry for it. I cry for the officers that were shot down who were trying to protect the demonstrators. As President Obama said, it defeats the whole purpose of the march. And I hope for a more peaceful summer. Bless you all from the conversation. Rabbi Rosenberg, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, pleasure.
And we look forward to having a riotous time at the conventions while we move forward to progress, especially with England out of the European Union. And will that help or hurt Trump?
Stock market went up.
It goes up, it goes down.
It's 18,003 today. So far, so good.
Good news?
Good news.
Good news. Well, what happened in Europe?